For years, Scarborough Shoal has stood as one of the most contested maritime features in the South China Sea. Situated just 120 nautical miles from Luzon, it lies well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. In recent days, Beijing announced the creation of a so-called Huangyan Nature Reserve at the shoal, sparking an immediate and angry response from Manila. The Philippine government declared the move a blatant violation of international law and the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration, ruling that invalidated China's sweeping claims. Yet the move reflects a familiar Chinese playbook, applying a veneer of environmental or administrative authority over disputed waters to entrench control without overtly declaring a military occupation. Scarborough Shoal holds immense strategic weight. It functions as a maritime choke point near Luzon, offering potential radar and missile coverage deep into Philippine territory. Since the 2012 standoff, China has exercised effective control, restricting Filipino fishermen, erecting a near-permanent Coast Guard and militia presence, and turning the shoal into a symbol of Manila's limited capacity to enforce sovereignty. By declaring it a nature reserve, Beijing cloaks its consolidation effort in the language of conservation. The narrative is simple. Outsiders are no longer obstructed because of military control, but rather because the area must be preserved. For Manila, the consequences are the same: restricted access, erosion of rights, and another step toward normalization of Chinese jurisdiction. This tactic is not new. China has repeatedly blurred the lines between civilian administration and strategic consolidation. In the Paracels and Spratlys, fishing bans, research stations, and environmental decrees have preceded or accompanied military construction. The fear in Manila and Washington is that Scarborough could follow the same path, shifting from a contested shoal into a fortified outpost. Even without dredging or runways, a simple Chinese declaration of environmental protection already alters the narrative in diplomatic forums. It turns a military question into a legal and environmental one, complicating the response of states that would otherwise back Manila on sovereignty grounds. The Philippine reaction has been swift but constrained. The Department of Foreign Affairs lodged a formal protest and demanded Beijing rescind the measure. Officials framed the move as illegal under UNCLOS and incompatible with the PCA ruling. At the same time, the Navy and Coast Guard continued their presence in nearby waters, while logistical efforts at the BRP Sierra Madre on Second Thomas Shoal were reinforced. That garrison, a grounded World War II ship, remains Manila's most visible symbol of defiance against Chinese encroachment. Resupply missions there in recent days proceeded, despite shadowing by Chinese vessels, underscoring a Philippine determination to avoid another fait accompli like Scarborough. Allies and partners have taken notice. Washington reiterated that the Mutual Defense Treaty of 1951 covers armed attacks on Philippine forces, ships, and aircraft in the South China Sea. Japan, Australia, and Canada have joined Manila in maritime cooperative activities within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, signaling that the dispute is no longer bilateral, but part of a wider contest over rules and norms. Tokyo, in particular, has deepened defense cooperation, offering surveillance radars and exploring the transfer of retired destroyers. For the Philippines, these partnerships are essential, for they offset a stark reality. Manila cannot unilaterally roll back Chinese control at Scarborough. Only through coalitions, legal mechanisms, and persistent assertion of rights can it prevent further erosion of sovereignty. The decision to establish a nature reserve also arrives at a sensitive moment. Manila is struggling to finance its Horizon 3 modernization program, with the high-profile purchase of F-16s postponed for budgetary reasons. The Navy is preparing to integrate its first batch of modern frigates, while considering submarine options from France and South Korea. The Army is fielding BrahMos missiles to deter naval incursions. All these efforts reflect a recognition that sovereignty disputes are not abstract. They directly dictate defense priorities. Scarborough Shoal serves as a daily reminder that gaps in capability translate into strategic concessions. Looking ahead, 3 scenarios emerge. In the first, China gradually expands its control, perhaps introducing environmental monitoring stations or permanent facilities under the guise of conservation. The shoal could evolve into another artificial island, shifting the balance of power in the West Philippine Sea even further. In the second, the Philippines leverages alliances to sustain a constant multinational presence, using maritime cooperative activities to ensure Scarborough remains a contested rather than conceded space. In the third, the dispute drifts into a frozen conflict. Manila continues diplomatic protests. China maintains its grip, and no side escalates, leaving the status quo unchanged, but sovereignty claims unresolved. For Manila, none of these scenarios are ideal. Allowing Scarborough to slip fully into China's grasp would mark another loss of strategic space, undermining the defense of Luzon and weakening regional deterrence. Escalation carries risks of confrontation that the Philippines is ill-equipped to manage alone. Yet doing nothing erodes credibility and sets a precedent that could spill over to other features. This is why Scarborough is more than just a coral reef. It is a test of national resolve, alliance credibility, and the willingness of the international community to uphold maritime law. The broader lesson is that sovereignty today is defended not only through warships and missiles, but also through lawfare, diplomacy, and narrative control. Beijing understands this, which is why it cloaks territorial consolidation in the language of conservation. Manila must respond in kind, asserting not only its rights, but also its ability to frame the issue internationally. That means investing in maritime domain awareness, building coalitions, and accelerating Horizon 3 projects that close existing vulnerabilities. Submarines, frigates, and air defense systems are not luxuries, but instruments that ensure Philippine protests carry weight. Ultimately, Scarborough Shoal encapsulates the Philippine dilemma in the South China Sea, a small state confronted by a great power, reliant on alliances, constrained by budgets, yet unwilling to yield sovereignty. The announcement of a nature reserve does not alter geography, but it does shift perceptions. If unchallenged, it will become another brick in Beijing's wall of facts on the water. For the Philippines, the challenge is to prevent a reef from becoming a symbol of lost resolve. The struggle over Scarborough is therefore not only about fish, coral, or rocks. It is about the future trajectory of Philippine security and the credibility of international law in restraining might with right. The Philippine public watching these developments is right to ask what comes next. Should Manila press harder in multilateral forums, escalate patrols, or double down on modernization? Each path carries costs, but the alternative is acquiescence. Scarborough Shoal reminds us that sovereignty can be eroded not only by sudden invasions, but by gradual, carefully calibrated steps. Recognizing that reality is the first step toward resisting it. And for the Philippines, resistance is not optional. It is the essence of survival in the West Philippine Sea.